Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm going to show you how to do the assignment Timeline to the American Revolution. And this timeline is going to be the first step into our exploration of the events that led to the American Revolution. So we're going to review the KUDs in the actual assignment itself. So let's start there. So I'm going to go ahead underneath the description of the assignment, and I'm going to open the assignment itself. And then I'm going to open my attachment. Okay. So first things first, before you do anything, please make sure that you add your first and last name. And you add your class period. Okay. Moving on to the KUDs. So with this activity, what I want you to know is why was there an American Revolution? So by looking first at the events and the order in which they occurred, that's going to give you a better understanding of why there was an American Revolution at the end. I want you to understand through these events that the British actions were considered unreasonable by the colonists, and the imposition of British law came to be viewed as increasingly oppressive. And what this means is that the colonists started to see, to build on what we've talked about the Great Awakening and the Enlightenment, colonists started to wake up to the things that the British were doing to them, that the British monarchy was doing to them, and they started to realize that they were becoming a more and more oppressive government, and they wanted to change that, so they wanted to rebel. With this activity, what you're going to be doing is building an online timeline that includes basic descriptions of events as well as written analyses of each event's significance. So this is just the first step in that. This actual timeline is something that we're going to be doing for a little while to build up on this, this knowledge of events that occurred. So the first step to this activity is to drag and drop the events that are listed down below on each page into their correct spot on the timeline. Use your internet research skills to find the answer. So each of these 3 slides has a different set of events that occurred. So the events that occurred are listed here below. There's not going to be anything different. Okay, so to find the time for each of these events, I'm going to go ahead and split my screen in half. So I can have one window that is my research window and the other one that is my activity window. I suggest you do the same. So I'm just going to go, and they're only in alphabetical order down here because your job is to put them into timeline order at the top here, chronological order. So I'm going to first type in, when did the Boston Massacre happen? Okay, and it happened in on March 5th, 1770. So there's only one 1770 date on here, so I'm going to click and drag to there. Okay. And then I'm going to continue to do that for the rest of my activities. If the actual date is not on there, as in, for example, March 5th wasn't on my timeline, but the year 1770 was, that's how I knew where to place that on the timeline. Okay. So that's what you'll be doing for slides 3, 4, and 5. For slide number 6, it gives you the instructions for the rest of the activity. So to take our knowledge one step further, you're going to choose 3 events from the timeline and then use the internet to research them a little bit further, share 3 to 5 interesting facts you learned on the next slides, and find an image related to the event. Okay, so Wikipedia is a good source for images, not so much for actual information. So I'm going to stick with the Boston Massacre since I'm here anyway. And I'm going to try and find more information about it. So I'm going to delete my question here. I'm just going to type Boston Massacre. History.com is a good resource to use. If I did go to, or ushistory.org, good resource to use. If I did actually go to the Boston Massacre Wikipedia page, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom to sources, further reading, or external links. These are good places to start, particularly with the external links section of a Wikipedia page. So I'm going to click on something here because the Historical Society, that's a good place to do. Maybe a Boston National official website of a historical park. Let's start there. So I'm going to research some information about it. Okay. Not really much about the actual Boston massacre. So I'm going to go back to Encyclopedia Britannica. And I'm going to find some interesting facts. So I'm going to make sure that on my first slide here, I type Boston Massacre. Okay, and then my 3 to 5 interesting facts are going to be listed here. So again, I'm using Encyclopedia Britannica or America to find that information. And then if I go back to Wikipedia, after I'm done finding my information, and I want to use this picture here, I'm going to click on the picture to make it bigger. And then I'm going to right-click on the picture and copy it. And then I'm going to go back to my slide and paste it. Okay, and move it over. If I want to add a border to it, I can add a border to it or whatever, and then move on to my next slide. So again, the 3 things that you're doing is you're going to share the name of the event that you're researching. You're going to find 3 to 5 interesting facts about them. And you're going to find an image related to it. Again, Wikipedia is not a great source for, it's not a great source for information, mostly because any Yahoo on the internet can edit a Boston or a Wikipedia page. But it is a good resource to start your research. Again, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, to your external links pages. And it's also a good resource for images. So they usually have some really high quality images that you can use. They're a free source for that. Okay. So again, your task for this activity is to first put your events on the timeline in their correct order, and then to choose 3 events of your pick and research them further, creating a slide for each.